Li Juan looked up from his desk as the alarm sounded through the research station. The colony of New Horizon was usually quiet. Today was different. "All staff report to the main hall," said a voice over the speakers. "This is not a drill." Juan closed his research notes on the local plants and hurried to the hall. The room was filled with worried faces when he arrived. Director Choi stood at the front. "Our sensors have detected something large crashing in the northern woods. It is not one of our ships." The crowd began to talk all at once. This was the first sign of anything not from Earth in the 5 years since they had settled here. "I need a team to check it out," said the director. "Any volunteers?" Juan raised his hand without thinking. As the colony's top researcher on alien life, he had to see this. 5 others joined him. They took the fastest rover and headed north. No one spoke much during the ride. What would they find? A meteor? A ship? 2 hours later, they reached the crash site. Trees were broken for hundreds of meters. At the end of this path of destruction lay something none of them had ever seen before. Is that alive?" whispered Hana, one of the team members. The creature was huge, at least 20 meters long. It looked like the dragons from old Earth stories, with scales that shined like metal in the sunlight. Parts of its body were clearly machines, metal wings, a glowing chest plate, and something like a helmet on its head. "Stay back," ordered Team Leader Park. "Call for security forces now." Juan couldn't look away. The dragon machine was breathing hard. Dark fluid leaked from wounds in its side. Its eyes, actual eyes, not cameras, blinked slowly. "It's dying," Juan said softly. The radio crackled. "Security is on the way. Do not approach the object. Repeat, do not approach." Everyone backed away, but Juan took a step forward instead. The creature's eye, golden with a black slit down the middle, focused on him. "Juan, get back here," Park shouted. The dragon made a sound, part growl, part mechanical whine. Pain. Juan had studied enough animals to know pain when he heard it. "It needs help," Juan said. "It could kill you. We don't know what it is." Juan took another step forward. The dragon watched him, but made no move to attack. More dark fluid, blood, pooled beneath it. In the distance, Juan heard the security vehicles approaching. They would likely destroy this creature rather than risk the colony's safety. Something in the dragon's eyes looked almost human, intelligent, afraid. Juan made his choice. He walked forward, ignoring the shouts behind him. "Juan, stop!" Team Leader Park shouted. His voice shook with fear. "That's an order." Juan heard him, but kept walking. The dragon's golden eyes followed his every move. Its breathing came in rough, pained gasps. Up close, Juan could see that the wounds were worse than he had thought. The mixture of scales and metal was torn open in several places. The sound of vehicles grew louder. Soon the security team would arrive. "Hello," Juan said softly. "I want to help you." The dragon made a low sound. Its massive head shifted slightly. Juan froze, but the creature only seemed to be trying to get a better look at him. "I'm Juan," he said, pointing to himself. "Human. From Earth." The dragon's eyes blinked slowly. There was pain there, but also something else. Understanding. 3 large vehicles roared into the clearing. Men and women in gray uniforms jumped out, holding weapons. Leading them was Commander Kim Do-yeon, head of colony security. "Step away from the alien, Dr. Lee," Kim ordered. His voice was calm but firm. The security team spread out, forming a half circle. "It's hurt," Juan called back. "It needs help, not guns." "We don't know what it is or why it's here," Kim replied. "It could be dangerous. Move away so we can secure it." Juan looked at the dragon again. Its breathing was getting weaker. One of its metal wings sparked with damaged wiring. "If you wanted to hurt us, you would have already," Juan said quietly to the dragon. "Right." The dragon made a clicking sound. Then, to Juan's surprise, Lights flickered across the metal helmet on its head. Was it trying to communicate? Last warning, Dr. Lee, Commander Kim said. We're going to stun it and take it to a secure facility. Juwon knew what that meant. They would study it, probably take it apart. If it survived at all, it would be as a prisoner. The dragon suddenly shifted, trying to rise. The security team raised their weapons. Wait, Juwon yelled, stepping between them and the dragon. Don't shoot. The dragon collapsed back to the ground with a heavy thud that shook the earth. More dark fluid poured from its wounds. In that moment, Juwon made a decision that would change everything. Instead of moving away, he placed his hand gently on the dragon's scaled forehead. I'm staying with it, he said firmly. If you want to take it, you'll have to take me too. Commander Kim stared at Juwon like he had lost his mind. Perhaps he had. Juwon, Hana called from where the research team stood. It's not worth dying for. But Juwon didn't move. The dragon's eye looked directly into his. In that strange gaze, Juwon saw gratitude. For 3 long minutes, no one moved. Commander Kim and his security team kept their weapons ready. The research team watched in shock. And Juwon stood with his hand on the dragon's head, feeling its rough scales under his fingers. Finally, Commander Kim lowered his weapon slightly. Dr. Lee, this is not a stray dog. It is an unknown alien life form with technology we have never seen. I know what it is, Juwon replied without looking away from the dragon. It's scared and hurt. And it's smart. As if to prove his point, the lights on the dragon's helmet began to flash in a pattern. At first, it seemed random. Then Juwon realized it was repeating. It's trying to talk to us, he said. Director Choi pushed through the security team and approached slowly. As the colony's top scientist, her word carried weight. Commander, hold your team, she ordered. Dr. Lee might be right. Those look like communication attempts. The dragon's eyes moved from Juwon to Director Choi, then back. Its metal parts hummed softly. Choi pulled out her tablet and started recording the light patterns. After a minute, she gasped. It's binary code, she said. Very basic, but definitely a language. She tapped on her tablet, then held it up. The screen flashed lights in response to the dragon's pattern. The dragon's eyes widened. It made a new pattern of lights, faster this time. What's it saying? Commander Kim asked, still tense but now curious. Director Choi worked on her tablet. It's hard to be sure, but I think it's asking if we're going to kill it. Juwon looked into the dragon's golden eyes. No, he said firmly. We're not going to hurt you. Director Choi flashed the translation through her tablet. The dragon's breathing seemed to slow, as if in relief. My name is Juwon, he said again, pointing to himself. After Choi translated, the dragon's lights blinked rapidly. It says its name is, the closest I can translate is Ryuk, Choi said. Ryuk, Juwon repeated, smiling at the dragon. Over the next hour, through slow, simple communications, they learned more. Ryuk was a war dragon from a species called the Morai. He had been badly hurt in a battle far from Earth and had flown in a damaged ship. The crash had destroyed his ship and left him dying. Can we help you? Juwon asked through the translator. Ryuk's lights dimmed. The meaning was clear even before the translation. Probably not. We have to try, Juwon insisted. Director, can we bring medical supplies? Maybe some of his technology can be repaired. Commander Kim shook his head. It's too dangerous to move it to the colony. Then we stay here, Juwon said. I'm not leaving him. The sun was starting to set. Against Commander Kim's advice, Director Choi agreed to set up a temporary camp around Ryuk. Half the security team would stay to watch the alien. The rest would bring supplies from the colony. As everyone moved around setting up lights and equipment, Juwon stayed by Ryuk's side. The war dragon's eyes never left him. Night fell over the forest. The team had set up bright lights around Ryuk. Medical supplies arrived from the colony, but no one knew how to help an alien dragon. Juwan stayed awake while others took turns resting. He sat beside Ryuk, talking softly. "Our world is called Earth," he said as Director Choi translated. "This colony is only 5 years old. We're still learning about this planet." Ryuk's lights blinked slowly. His breathing was getting worse. "What about your world?" Juwan asked. The answer came slowly. Ryuk had no home world. The Morai were created in labs by beings called the Tekran. They were living weapons, born to fight. Juwan felt a deep sadness. "You never had a choice." Ryuk's eyes closed briefly. "No, never a choice." As the night grew colder, Juwan noticed Ryuk shivering. The dragon's metal parts were giving off less heat. "His life support systems are failing," said Mina, the team's engineer who had arrived with the supplies. She pointed to the glowing chest plate. "That's probably keeping him alive. And it's getting dimmer." Juwan looked around desperately. "There must be something we can do." Commander Kim shook his head. "We don't understand this technology. We might make things worse." Ryuk's eyes opened again. He looked at Juwan, then at the stars above. His lights blinked a message. "He says he's ready to die." Director Choi translated, her voice breaking. "He's grateful he won't die alone." "No," Juwan said firmly. "You're not dying today." But even as he said it, the light in Rex's chest grew fainter. The dragon's golden eyes began to close. Without thinking, Juwan moved forward and wrapped his arms around Ryuk's massive head. He couldn't even reach halfway around, but he held on tightly. "Stay with us," he whispered. "Please." The security team tensed. Director Choi gasped. No one had ever touched the dragon like this. Ryuk's eyes opened in surprise. Then something amazing happened. The lights on his helmet began to glow brighter. The chest plate's light steadied. "Look at that," Mina said in wonder. "The systems are responding." Juwan didn't let go. He held Ryuk, feeling the dragon's slow breathing against his body. "His body temperature is rising," said a medical officer, checking readings on a tablet. "Vital signs stabilizing." Ryuk's lights blinked rapidly. "What's he saying?" Juwan asked. Director Choi stared at her screen. He says your touch is healing him. Something about human body heat matching a frequency his systems need." "Keep holding him," Mina urged. "Whatever you're doing, it's working." Through the night, Juwan stayed with Ryuk, sometimes talking, sometimes just sitting quietly with his hand on the dragon's scales. By morning, Ryuk's breathing was stronger. The worst wounds had stopped bleeding. When the sun rose, Ryuk's lights blinked a new message. "He says no one has ever shown him kindness before," Director Choi translated. "Not in his entire life." Juwan smiled at the dragon. "There's a first time for everything, friend." 3 days passed. Ryuk grew stronger. The colony leaders had allowed a small building to be made around him, as moving him was still too risky. Juwan spent most of his time there, learning to communicate more easily with the war dragon. On the 4th morning, Director Choi called an emergency meeting in the building. Commander Kim, Juwan, and the lead scientists gathered around a table near Ryuk. "We have a problem," Director Choi said. "Our long-range sensors have picked up unusual activity at the edge of our star system." Commander Kim looked grim. "Is it related to our visitor?" All eyes turned to Ryuk. The dragon's lights blinked rapidly as he responded. "Yes," Director Choi translated. "Ryuk says his creators, the Tekran Empire, will be looking for him. And worse, they already know about Earth." Worried voices filled the room. Juwan moved closer to Ryuk. "How long do we have?" More blinking lights. "Months, maybe, but they will come." Director Choi read. "Why would they care about one lost weapon?" Commander Kim asked. Ryuk's answer was slow, careful. He was not just any weapon. He carried important information in his neural systems. Battle plans. Secrets. The Tekran would want him back or destroyed. And these Tekran, Juan asked. What do they want with Earth? The answer chilled everyone. To the Tekren, Earth was just another world to use. Humans would be slaves or test subjects. Maybe raw material for more war dragons. We need to warn Earth, Commander Kim said. Start evacuations. Where would we go? Director Choi asked. If these aliens control multiple star systems, where is safe? Silence fell over the room. Earth had only a few colonies. None could hold billions of people. Juan looked at Ryuk. Is there another way? Can we defend ourselves? Ryuk's eyes seemed to soften. Yes, his light said, but it would require something difficult. The dragon explained that his neural matrix contained detailed information about Tekren weapons, ships, and tactics. With this knowledge, humans might have a chance to prepare, but the data was locked in complex systems. The simple translation program they used now could not access it. Then how? Asked Mina, who had continued to study Ryuk's technology. Ryuk's lights blinked a pattern they had not seen before. He's suggesting some kind of direct neural connection, Director Choi said, her voice showing her shock. Between him and a human mind. Is that even possible? Commander Kim asked. Mina spoke up. Maybe. We've been developing neural interface technology for medical use, but using it with alien systems would be risky. Dangerous. How dangerous? Juan asked. Mina hesitated. Brain damage. Death. We just don't know. Ryuk's lights blinked sadly. He understood. It was too much to ask. But Juan stepped forward. I'll do it. Absolutely not, Commander Kim said. It's too dangerous. Director Choi looked equally worried. Juan, we don't know what connecting with an alien mind might do to you. But Juan had made up his mind. He looked at Ryuk, whose golden eyes watched him with concern. Ask him if he thinks it will work, Juan said. Director Choi translated the question. Ryuk's lights blinked slowly. He says he doesn't know, she read. No Morai has ever connected with a human before, but he believes our minds might be more compatible than we think. For 2 days, the team prepared. Mina worked with medical staff to adapt their neural interface technology. Ryuk helped as much as he could, explaining how his systems worked. On the morning of the 3rd day, they were ready. The procedure would happen in the building around Ryuk. Juan sat in a chair next to the dragon's head. Wires connected Juan to a computer, which connected to Ryuk's neural helmet. Last chance to change your mind, Mina said as she checked the equipment. Juan smiled. We need this information, and I trust Ryuk. The dragon's eyes seemed to smile back. Director Choi gave the signal. Mina pressed a button. The world faded away. Juan found himself floating in darkness. Then suddenly, light exploded around him. Not physical light, but knowledge, memories, emotions. He saw through Ryuk's eyes, felt the pain of creation in cold labs, experienced the horror of first battle, forced to kill by his Tekren masters. Years of war, centuries. Ryuk was over 300 years old, his life extended by technology. But beneath the programmed obedience, something else had grown. The Tekren had not expected their weapons to develop consciousness, to question, to want freedom. Juan felt Ryuk's loneliness. War dragons were kept separate, never allowed to form bonds. They were tools, not beings. Then came the last battle. Ryuk had been damaged. Systems failing. The Tekren had ordered his squad to leave him behind. Disposable. But in that moment, something broke in Ryuk's programming. He fled. The memory shifted. Juan saw star maps, Tekren fleet movements, weapon designs, defense codes. The knowledge was overwhelming, but somehow his mind sorted it, stored it. Then he felt Ryuk's presence directly, not through memories, but here now, in this shared mental space. Thank you. Ryuk's thoughts came clearly, without translation. For seeing me as someone, not something. The connection began to fade. Juan reached out mentally, trying to hold on. We'll help you, he promised. You're free now. Jiwan opened his eyes. He was back in his body, in the chair. His head hurt terribly, but he remembered everything. The medical team rushed to check him. Director Choi looked worried. Did it work? She asked. Jiwan nodded weakly. Yes. I know where the Tekran ships are, how they fight, their weaknesses. He looked at Ryuk, whose eyes were fixed on him. And I understand him now. Really understand. What do you mean? Commander Kim asked. The Tekran created the war dragons to be weapons, Jiwan said. But they became more. They have feelings, thoughts of their own. The Tekran just never listened. 1 week after the neural connection, Jiwan recovered his strength. Every day he shared more of what he had learned with Earth's leaders. Plans were being made to build new defenses based on his knowledge of Tekran technology. Ryuk was healing too. He could now move around inside the large building they had built for him. His wounds were closing, and his systems were working better. Minna had even managed to repair some of his damaged parts. On a quiet afternoon, alarms suddenly blared throughout the colony. Unidentified ship entering orbit, announced the speakers. All personnel to emergency stations. Jiwan rushed to the command center. Director Choi and Commander Kim were already there, looking at the main screen. Tekran scout ship, Jiwan said immediately. He recognized it from Ryuk's memories. Small crew, probably looking for Ryuk. Can we fight it? Commander Kim asked. Jiwan shook his head. Even a scout ship has weapons that could destroy the whole colony. Then what do we do? Director Choi asked. Hide. Jiwan thought quickly. No, we need to trick them. Make them think there's nothing worth investigating here. He explained his plan. Using the colony's communication array, they could broadcast a signal that would make the planet appear contaminated with a pathogen deadly to Tekran biology. It was a trick Ryuk knew about. Some planets were marked as do not land in Tekran systems. Will it work? Commander Kim asked. Maybe, Jiwan said. But we need Ryuk's help to get the signal right. They rushed to Ryuk's building. The dragon was already alert, his eyes fixed on the ceiling, as if he could see through it to the ship above. They found me. Ryuk's lights blinked. Yes, Jiwan said. But we have a plan. Working together, Jiwan, Ryuk, and Minna modified the colony's main transmitter. They programmed it to send the false contamination signal. Ready, Minna said after an hour of work. Jiwan looked at Ryuk. Will they believe it? Ryuk's lights blinked. The scout crew will. They're not allowed to take risks. They activated the signal. On the screens, they watched the Tekran ship change position. It's working, Commander Kim said. They're moving away from direct orbit. Everyone cheered. But then the ship stopped. Why aren't they leaving? Director Choi asked. Ryuk's lights blinked rapidly. They're sending a message back to the fleet. Standard procedure. Jiwan's heart sank. So they're telling the Tekran about Earth anyway. Yes, Ryuk confirmed. The signal will buy us time. But they know I'm here now. The scout ship finally turned and disappeared into space. How long do we have? Commander Kim asked. A few months, Jiwan answered, remembering the fleet positions from Ryuk's memories. We need to prepare Earth for what's coming. Director Choi nodded. I'll contact Earth government right away. We need to share everything we've learned. As the others left to make preparations, Jiwan stayed with Ryuk. I'm sorry, the dragon's lights said. I brought this danger to your world. Jiwan placed his hand on Ryuk's side. No, the Tekran would have found us eventually. But now, thanks to you, we have a chance to be ready. 3 months passed. Earth had taken the warning seriously. Using the knowledge from Ryuk's memories, humans began building new weapons and shields. Scientists studied the information about Tekran technology that Jiwan had shared. Ryuk was now fully healed. He could fly again, though he stayed close to the colony. People had stopped being afraid of him. Children would wave when he flew overhead. One morning, Juwan found Ryuk watching Earth scientists test a new shield generator. Your people learned quickly. Ryuk's lights blinked. He no longer needed the translation program. Juwan understood him directly after their mental connection. We have a good reason to learn, Juwan replied. No one wants to become slaves to the Tekren. Ryuk lowered his massive head. I was a slave my whole life. I didn't even know it until I met you. The war dragon had changed in the past months. He spoke more freely, showed emotions more openly. Juwan had learned that the Tekren kept their dragons under strict control, punishing any sign of independent thought. Director Choi wants to see us, Juwan said. They've finished the new communication system. They went to the main lab where Director Choi and her team had been working. On the table sat a small device. This uses Tekren frequencies, Director Choi explained. When the fleet arrives, we can broadcast a message directly to them. What message? Ryuk asked, his lights blinking rapidly. That's what we need to decide, she said. We could threaten them with our new weapons, or offer some kind of deal. Juwan shook his head. The Tekren don't make deals, and they won't be scared off easily. Then what? Commander Kim asked. He had become more respectful of Ryuk over the months. Juwan looked at Ryuk. An idea had been forming in his mind, but he hadn't shared it yet. The other war dragons, Juwan said. Could we reach them? Talk to them? Ryuk's eyes widened. The fleet will have hundreds of my kind, but they are controlled, programmed to obey. But you broke free, Juwan pointed out. When they left you to die. What if others could too? The room fell silent as everyone considered this idea. It's possible, Ryuk said slowly, but dangerous. The Tekren would kill any dragon that rebelled. Unless they all rebelled at once, Juwan said. A message from you, showing you're free and well. Working with humans as equals, not slaves. Ryuk's body seemed to straighten, his metal wings extending slightly. It could work, he said, but we would need to embed a special code in the broadcast, something that would bypass Tekren controls. Director Choi leaned forward. Can you create such a code? Ryuk's lights blinked in what Juwan now recognized as a smile. With help, yes. For the next weeks, Ryuk and the science team worked on the special broadcast. Meanwhile, Earth's defenses continued to grow stronger. Ships were equipped with shields based on Tekren designs. Weapons were built that could damage even the largest alien vessels. The story of the human who hugged a dying war dragon had spread across Earth. It had become a symbol of hope. If one act of kindness could turn an enemy into an ally, perhaps there was a chance against the Tekren after all. 6 months after Ryuk crashed on Earth, the long-range sensors detected multiple ships entering the solar system. The Tekren fleet had arrived. 23 warships, Commander Kim reported in the emergency meeting, including 1 command ship. How many war dragons? Juwan asked. At least 300, Ryuk answered. His lights blinked with worry. More than I expected. Earth's leaders gathered through video links. The president spoke calmly. Our defenses are ready, but we would rather avoid war if possible. The broadcast is ready too, Director Choi said. We can send it as soon as they come within range. Everyone looked at Ryuk. The war dragon had helped create the special signal that would speak directly to others of his kind. We only have one chance, Ryuk said. If it fails, the Tekren will block all transmissions. The fleet moved closer to Earth. News channels showed images of the alien ships. People were scared, but there was no panic. Earth had prepared well. They're within range, Minna reported from her station. Ready to broadcast. Juwan stood next to Ryuk. They had decided that both of them would appear in the message. A human and a war dragon, standing together as equals. Begin transmission, the president ordered. The cameras turned on. Juwan took a deep breath and began speaking. To the Tekren fleet approaching Earth. My name is Lee Juwan. With me is Ryuk, whom you know as War Dragon Unit 7291. We stand before you not as enemies, but to offer a choice. Ryek's lights blinked as he spoke next. To my fellow War Dragons, 6 months ago, I was left to die. But this human showed me kindness when no one ever had before. I learned that I could be more than a weapon, that I could choose. The broadcast continued, showing images of Ryuk living freely among humans, working with them, flying through the skies without orders or control. Hidden in the transmission was the special code. It bypassed the control systems in the War Dragon's neural matrices. It didn't force them to rebel. It simply gave them the ability to choose for themselves. On the screens, they watched the Tekran fleet. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, lights began to flicker across several ships. "What's happening?" the president asked. "The War Dragons," Ryek said, his voice full of hope. "They're responding." More lights appeared on more ships. Then something amazing happened. The command ship, which had been moving toward Earth, stopped. Then slowly it turned away. "They're leaving?" Commander Kim asked in disbelief. "No," Ryek said. "They're waiting, making their choice." A transmission came from the command ship. On the screen appeared a Tekran commander, his gray face twisted with anger. "What have you done to our weapons?" he demanded. The president stepped forward. "We've done nothing but offer freedom to those you enslaved. The War Dragons are making their own decisions now." One by one, the ships in the fleet began to change position. Some moved away from Earth. Others stayed in formation. "The Dragons are choosing sides," Ryek explained. "Some will stay with the Tekran. Others want freedom." Jiwan smiled. "And Earth will welcome those who choose freedom." The Tekran commander's face showed rage, then fear. His final words before cutting transmission were, "This isn't over." But for now, it was. The threat had been changed by one simple act of kindness that grew into something more powerful than any weapon. Jiwan looked at Ryuk. "What happens now?" Ryuk's lights blinked happily. "Now we help my people learn to live in peace, like you taught me." The War Dragons who chose freedom came to Earth, not as weapons, but as visitors. The start of a new chapter for both species. ****, the end ****.